You're not going to believe this wild twist. Bill Maher has never held back when it comes to criticizing President Trump, often making him a regular target on his show. But in a surprising turn of events, Maher actually had a private meeting with Trump at the White House. The whole thing was arranged by none other than Kid Rock, who recently spilled some behind-the-scenes detail and left everyone talking. So today we're breaking down what really happened, what Kid Rock revealed, and why this unlikely encounter has everyone talking. As always, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this.
And it could not have been better. Everyone was so surprised, so pleasant. The most shocking thing to me was, Bill's obviously a very big liberal, been very hard on the president, but he's donated a lot of money to other politicians. You've had Biden, Clinton, Obama, everybody. He had never been to the White House, and the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence. We saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom, and I was like, "You've never been here, Bill?" And I was like, "How about this? President Trump, extending this olive branch," and we talked about things we had in common, ending wokeness, securing the border. The president was asking him what he thought about policy, going on with Iran and Israel and things. It just it blew my mind. It was, right. I was, very, very proud.
And to give a bit of context, this whole thing started when Kid Rock went on Bill Maher's podcast about a month ago, during which he casually floated the idea of setting up a meeting between Maher and President Trump. Obviously, Bill was hesitant at first, but after some back and forth, he eventually did agree. Now, pause and think about how wild that is. A singer arranging a sit-down between the leader of the free world and a talk show host who spent years publicly dragging that leader. Trump wasn't a big fan of the idea either. He posted on Truth Social saying, quote, "I really didn't like the idea much and don't like it much now, but thought it would be interesting." After the meeting, Bill took to X to report on the meeting and shared a post that reads, quote, "Hey everybody, thank you all for the interest in my dinner with the president last night. I promise all will be revealed on the next real-time show." Adding, "As of 1st of the April today, no one would believe what I said today anyway." Talk about holding back vital information, but Kid talked about this exact thing on an appearance with Sean Hannity and made some very valid points.
You've been polarizing? No way. I don't believe that for 1 second. All right, so Bill's going to go on his show. And what do you think, based on being there, he's going to say?
I think he's going to say nice things about the president. No, he's not going to have a MAGA hat on, and he's probably not going to vote. I think he's going to say that we still don't agree politically. It really freaks out Bill when people are talking about a third term, this, that, and the other. He brought that up, and the president, they talked about it a little bit. That was something I would consider private. I feel uncomfortable sharing that. If the president wanted to, he could, but we basically stuck to things that we agreed on, and they both have extremely deep knowledge of American history. Both very smart guys, and very reasonable people, even though they've had this pretty harsh relationship.
Well, this might surprise many of you, but Bill actually graduated from Cornell University with degrees in English and history. Honestly, hearing about him and Trump sit down and talk policy was kind of refreshing. It proves that even in a country as divided as ever, there's still space for two very different people to meet, talk, and maybe find some common ground. This is a point Kid expanded on and made a few solid arguments about why conversations like this matter more than ever.
They actually have things in common. Him and Trump, as hard as they've been on each other, and Bill's been more than a little unkind to the president over the years, and I've kind of friendly with them both, and I said, man, what if you could sit down and meet him and break bread? That's one thing I've found in life is, nothing gets solved and this country's so divided. I'm like, what if we could just have some laughs, talk about some things we agree on, and maybe just try to set an example for the reasonable people of this country that, it's okay to disagree on things, and, we can talk a little smack about each other, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. And Bill totally got it. Bill's like, Bob, I'm not going to sabotage something that could potentially bring us and maybe this country closer together. I was like, Mr. President, he totally gets it. And these guys, my mind was blown. That's all I can say. I'm like, if they can do it, maybe that family member you have with that you disagree with, that's divided you politically, or that someone, is social standing with a neighbor or somebody, maybe you can, go back and be like, hey, man, let's have dinner and talk about what we do have in common.
Exactly. With all the division, protests, and even acts of vandalism happening across the country, this dinner is a great reminder that at the end of the day, we're still all Americans. Disagreement's part of a healthy society. It's not something to fear. Different opinions and beliefs are what keep things moving forward, not moving backward. By the way, I've noticed you haven't liked the video or subscribed to the channel yet, so what are you waiting for? Now, conversations like this one are how we bridge gaps. They help us understand opposing views, challenge our own thinking, and hopefully find some common ground. Bill took some heat from the far left just for sitting down at the same table as Trump, and during an appearance with Megyn Kelly, Anna Kasparian spoke out in his defense and had a few words for the people losing their minds.
Trump is the president of the United States, meaning he's meant to represent everyone, including individuals who did not vote for him. And if the left in general is unwilling to even have a conversation with anyone on the right, including the president, well, how are you ever going to expect him to consider the issues that matter the most to you? So I actually think opening up dialogue with individuals you disagree with is more important than just existing in this echo chamber where you're going to hear everything you want to hear, where your ideas are going to be validated, and quite frankly, where the lack of challenge to your ideas will make you quite weak and unappealing eventually to the electorate.
Not only will they make you appear weak, but they also keep your ideas from getting better. If nobody challenges what you believe, how do you even know if it holds up? That's how growth works. But you put your thoughts out there, someone pushes back, and then you realize, hey, this still makes sense, or you think, okay, maybe I need to tweak this. But the major problem with the extremes on the political spectrum is that they hate this concept. So to them, they just need you to nod along and agree with everything, no questions asked. That's why echo chambers are dangerous and should be avoided like the plague.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this, and I'm going to ask you. I feel that the right wing, whether they're doing it because of who they are, their own personal culture and how they value conversations, or whether they're doing it as a way of accumulating power, they bring people in. Even if there are some significant disagreements, if there are areas where they can find commonality or agreement with the other side, they're super welcoming and inviting. And that's how you build power. That's how you build power. I mean, you bring people in, you don't push people out.
I totally agree with that. And I do think there's a reason for it. I think it's because people who are on the right spend their whole lives dealing with people who disagree with them. So if you're a conservative or even just center right, like you have to deal with them everywhere. And K through 12, not to mention college education, my God. Everyone's liberal and they want you to be too. So you either need to be able to talk the talk or be able to politely engage. And as I always say, not make that the stakes of your friendship if you're talking about actual friends.
You can still tell Anna's got a little bit of that lefty mindset hanging on because she's talking about having conversations with fellow Americans like some sneaky strategy to gain power. No, that's kind of the whole point of language, isn't it? We invented it so we could share ideas, learn from each other, maybe solve problems without throwing punches or grunting. But she's acting as if it's some groundbreaking concept, like she just discovered human interaction for the first time. Welcome to the human experience, my friend. Pull up a chair. We've been doing this for quite a while, but I'd love to know your thoughts here, so let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below. And if you want your friends to get their coverage from an independent source like us, please share the video with them. It means the world. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.